Hello everyone, Gustavo Mendes here. In this video, we're going to be talking about project creation in Nucoda and Phoenix. Here on the left side, you can see that I already put a name for my project, and we have the output formats. These are the resolution and frame rates that you can have, and we can have multiple ones inside the same project. So you can have different compositions with different resolutions. And right here under setup, we have a bunch of different presets that you can choose. So I'm going to choose UHD, and here we have the frame rate. We have the option for RGB or RGBA when we're caching. Normally keep it on RGB. And we have the option to create a project for 8-bit, 10-bit, 16-bit, or half. Normally, we recommend using half. And why is that? If you're using 8, 10, or 16-bit, your color tools will clip between layers in case you clip something while you're doing your grade. But if you keep it in half, you can recover anything that has been clipped. So we recommend you keep it in half for newer projects. But if you have a legacy project, it will open correctly. We have here size and width and height. And after you type here, if you're doing a custom size, you can just click on the button right here and it will calculate the aspect ratio. You can choose frames or fields. You can choose how you're going to convert different sizes of media. So we have auto fit, auto crop, and center. The type of filter we're using to do your upscaling, downscaling. The default is on, but as you can see, we have a lot of different options. And here, depending on your type of your color space, so changing it here, for example, if I do video empty, you're going to see that this changes to a LUT that you can choose. And we have a list of different LUTs based on cameras and color spaces and things like that. And after you choose something, you can apply that or not when you're doing your render. So if you click here, for example, in LUT, and we're going to choose an airy LUT, for example. If I click on apply LUT, this will be burned into your render. So remember that. But here, if I want to create different output sizes, for example, 1080p, and I want to create another one here that's standard def, for example, I'm going to create here, and this one I don't want in the LUT. So you can see it does not write LUT at the end. And here you can see the information, size, if it's half or 16-bit or 8-bit or 10-bit, your aspect ratio, your type of conversion, and if you have a LUT applied or not. You can rename things if you want. So you can just click on rename and actually write whatever information you think is correct for your project. And you can actually delete any outputs you're not going to use. You also have here the option to do a tetrahedral LUT interpolation, so you can get better quality when you're using the LUT. And if you're doing a stereoscopic project, you can turn that on here as well. Here on the right side are the color spaces that we can work on. We have video empty, full range, scene and log. Video log is here for legacy reasons, but we don't recommend using it, and ACES, which is fully color managed. Video range, full range, and scene and log are basically display referred. So the color that you're going to be doing, it's going to be based on the display you're working on. So be careful to be using these with a proper calibrated display for you to be sure what you're seeing and exporting properly. You also need to be careful when you're doing work on any of these spaces because they have different pivot points within the system for the color tools. So if you change it mid-project, you're going to have issues with the color you have already done. So be careful to choose the proper space you want right off the bat. The SDI output can also be set here, and we can do full range, we can do SDI full range, which is 4:1019, and we can actually do scale to video, so we keep it at 64:940. You can actually work on a full range color space, but use an SDI in video range. All you need to be careful is to, when you export your timeline, for you to apply a scale to video levels so you have the proper color and range for your black levels. Here you can also change your content mapping if you're doing HDR for Dolby Vision 2.9 and 4.0. Both of them are approved by Netflix, so just choose the one that's correct for your deliverable. The float processing option gives you the choice to process certain points of your tool in half float, so you're not clipping anything. So for example, you can do it from the input effects all the way down to the master layer, or from layers all the way down to master. So for example, you can process a certain type of DVO tools or OFX not in half float if they're not compatible, but your tools are going to be working in half float, so you're not clipping anything. So you can actually do a 10-bit or 8-bit or 16-bit project, but remember that your caches are going to be done in EXR no matter what, even if you're choosing the 10 or 16-bit. Right down here, we have the option to cache per project, meaning you can create separate folders per project for you to actually keep your thumbnails, your audio, your cache, and your proxies. This is very useful when you're trying to delete caches real quick without having to go inside the project. You can just open your Window Explorer and just choose the folder and delete whatever you don't need. And here on the right side, we have a choice to create different type of sources for caches. So for example, here I have a one-to-one source, meaning if I have a 5K file, I will create a 5K proxy. Doesn't matter if the project is, for example, 1080p, it will create a one-to-one source. And you can create different types in format. So I have 2:1, 3:1, 4:1, 5:1. You can just choose the one you want, and you can change if this is going to be done in 8, 10-bit, 16-bit, or half. So just make sure you choose whatever you want, and if you're choosing anything different from source, you can actually choose the filter as well for resize, downsize. And just make sure to choose whatever you want here that's different from your main source. These can be swapped inside your project at any time, so you can change it to do a better playback or to work faster, and then go back to your source and export your project, for example. Just remember that each one of these will cause a new cache to be generated, so be aware of that in terms of space. After you're choosing your proxies and everything else, and we have our output format set up, just click on New Project, and the project's going to open right up here. So you can see that it is available. It's not a stereo. Here has a location, the modification date, the creation date, and the backups that happen automatically according to the settings you chose under Preferences. So if we just double click, and here we're using the main interface, and we're going to be talking about the interface and how to bring media and everything else in a different video. But as you can see, we have the different output formats, and we have the different type of caches as well. After you create your project, you're also going to see some new options here on the right side. So not only you can create a new project, you can open, you can attach projects that have been detached. So for example, if I click here and I say detach project, it's going to disappear from my list. It's not going to be deleted, but it's not included here anymore. So I can click on attached, look here, and find the project that I just created. And it's going to ask if you want to remove any caches that were created for that project. So you can click yes or no. I normally click on yes, I don't need it. And you can recover projects as well. So for example, if this project already had a backup created, I can choose different versions of that project and just load that in case you have an issue or you need to go back to a different project for any other reason. And you can backup projects, you can delete completely, including caches and thumbnails. And if you change any settings, you just click on Apply Settings, and you can change whatever you need to change.